Hey everyone, so I'm a big fan of the Blair Witch Project and its franchise, and I wanted to go over a lot of the expanded material that they have besides the core films. I will go over some of the core films in brief summary, but like overall, there's just a lot of things you could look into as the franchise has video games, comic books, mockumentaries, and fan films that I think you should definitely check out. So let's just get right into it. So getting into the mockumentary side, or his four mockumentaries, this is The Curse of Blair Witch, and this one presents the legend as real history and introduces like Ellie Kedward, Rustin Parr, and the early disappearances. Here's another mockumentary, Stick and Bones, investigating Blair Witch, which is expands on the mythology with expert interviews and fabricated evidence, which is just another mockumentary you should check out. There's the Birkinsville Seven, which focuses on Rustin Parr after his arrest and claims Parr was influenced by a dark force tied to the forest. Reinforces the idea that Witch manipulates people in the killing. So this is another mockumentary you might want to check out. And then the final mockumentary is Shadow of the Blair Witch, which is a tie into Book of Shadows, which I'm not a big fan of, but I think this mockumentary is pretty good. Blends real world reactions to the first film within universe of mythology and explores how the legend spreads and affects outsiders. Into the video games, these are some of the earlier video games that came out, and these are split into volumes, so volume 1, 2, and 3, and they all focus on different aspects. So with volume 1, it focuses on the Rustin Parr. You investigate the Parr murders directly, and they heavily focus on the supernatural manipulation. And then in volume 2, it's the Legend of Coffin Rock. It's set earlier in the timeline and explores ritualistic killings tied to the witch. And in volume 3 is the Ellie Kedward tale, takes place in the 18th century, centers on Ellie Kedward, often considered the origin of the legend. So these are ones that you might want to check out. They're all PC games, which I think I haven't personally played myself, but I've watched playthroughs, and they're pretty interesting. They definitely expand on the lore a lot, so I would definitely recommend if you're interested. Finish off the video game section. This is a Blair Witch video game from 2019. It's a survival horror game. This one's really good. I really enjoyed this one a lot. This one focuses on a cop named Ellis who's with his dog Bullet, and they're trying to investigate the missing case of this boy who went in missing in the woods. But it's a lot of psychological sort of like horror elements of it, like descent into trauma and guilt, and then strongly emphasizes like the time loops and really reality warping. So I'd really recommend this. It's like a first person kind of survival perspective game, and I really like the story. It does tie into the universe pretty good. So I would say if you, I think from like something that's a little newer that you would really enjoy, I think this is one of the ones to check out. So getting into the book side of Blair Witch, there is a lot of books actually. In particular, there's a series called Blair Witch Files, which in the shelf of this person that is a collector, they have all the file books, and those really just investigate. They investigate stories tied to the witch's influence and expands the myth beyond Burkensville, which is pretty cool. And I'll get into one of the other books here. Highlighting one of the books I was talking about, the Blair Witch Project dossier, which is a investigative case file released alongside the original film, and it goes in police reports, historical documents, witness test statements, information on Ellie Kedward and Rustin Parr. I haven't read it personally, but I've heard it's pretty good, so I'd recommend. This one's very interesting to me. This is the Blair Witch Secret Confessions of Rustin Parr, and basically presented as like writings of Rustin Parr himself. It explores his mental decline, the voices he hears, and his relationships to the evil in the Black Hills Forest, and one of the deepest explorations of Parr ever published. Here's another picture just to highlight like the covers of the Blair Witch Files. Like I told you, it was just these are basically just the Blair Witch series that investigates into the supernatural events that were connected to the witch, and the books expand on the mythology. So this one's Blair Witch Graveyard Shift, which is an original horror story set within the universe of Blair Witch. New characters encounter supernatural events tied to Black Hills legend. So sounds interesting. I was looking at my research for this. I don't know if this is officially canon, but it's worth a look just if you're wanting to get more Blair Witch lore. And now getting into the comic books of Blair Witch, which there was the original released in 1999 by Oni Press. It's an anthology comic that tells several separate stories involving people who encountered a Blair Witch or its influence, and expands on the mythology beyond the film and includes stories involving Ellie Kedward and the other victims. And then there's the ones you see here, which are the Chronicles, which Blair Witch Chronicles had 4 issues. And issue 1 focuses on a teen prank in Black Hills that turned deadly. Issue 2 is a new supernatural encounter reveals more of the forest's reach. 3 focuses on another victim caught in expanded mythology. And 4 concludes the anthology and reinforces the idea that the evil extends beyond any single person or event, which is pretty cool, to be honest. So, I mean, if you're looking for any like reading for Blair Witch, I would definitely recommend those. A Dossier. There's also a photo novel which I didn't include, but that one sounds pretty interesting. But The Secret Confessions of Reston Park, Graveyard Shift, those are great. And then of course any of the ones from Blair Witch, the Blair Witch Files series, which was 8 books. So sorry, 8 books. So yeah, I'd recommend those if you want to check those out. Beyond that's like unofficial Blair Witch content that I think you should check out are a lot of these fan films that have been made. There was a Blair Witch Legacy fan film. I believe this was released in 2017, 2018, around that area. And I watched this one. I thought it was fairly okay. I thought it added some neat things. And I like to consider these canon just because it's more fun that way. But this one focuses on a new investigators dealing with the witch's lingering presence and themes of generational trauma and obsession. So just a trio wanting to make a documentary on Blair Witch and the films, like kind of like sort of influence and everything, and just ending up having this trio go crazy in the forest. And it does show the first time some people that actually survive to be able to get out of the forest, which I know is kind of a spoiler, but it's interesting to see how that plays out. So I'd recommend another Blair Witch sort of film that's kind of like a spin-off. It's obviously another fan film, unofficial, but it's called Doc 33, which is a found footage investigation with a more global angle to this. So this takes place, I believe, in Austria with Italian filmmaker students, I believe, and then suggests the phenomena may extend beyond Maryland, which I really love that, and that they're trying to do that, which is cool why they did this movie. I'm trying to remember. This probably released somewhere in like 2012, I believe, if so. I might be getting that wrong, but I believe that's around the time. Then there's the Blair Witch Reckoning, which was made by a single filmmaker, I believe a French filmmaker, and this just takes place centers on character. This one centers on characters confronting the witch, or centers on a character confronting the witch more directly, and often portrays the entity as more aggressive and confrontational, which is cool. This guy, I think, I liked the way he went about it. I mean, most found footage Blair Witch fan films are pretty cool because they're just expanding a bit on the lore, trying to add their own flair to it. And I definitely recommend you check this one out on YouTube. This one is the Rust and Parr Project, which is another fan film, which I believe you could still buy from their website, or I tried to buy a copy. They said they'll look for it for me, which you could see here. This is from 2012. This one's a deeper dive into Parr killings, typically framed as recovered or reconstructed footage, and strikes the idea of possession and stuff, which is pretty cool. I like the clips I've seen from it, so I'd recommend you could check it out. Here's another Blair Witch fan film called Blair Witch Project: The Reawakening. This one, an older one made by a few people, and it's just, something else to watch if you're a fan of Blair Witch and you want a lot of content. This is just another short film, or sort of a short film, just feature length, but it's on YouTube. It's called Blair Witch official movie, which is another just found footage film, and that is like made by fans, that is taking place within the universe of Blair Witch, which they made in 2019. I thought it was fine. I would recommend it if you want to just watch them. I'm gonna probably do a ranking of all the found footage fan films of Blair Witch. There's also another one called Black Dot Hills, I believe, that I didn't mention. I should include that here. It's from 2023. It's called Black Hills Movie. Found footage. I thought it was pretty good. Again, it's just a solo filmmaker. I would go recommend you check it out on YouTube. But yeah, that's about it for all more Blair Witch expanded content. When you go over the main few movies, you go games, comics, books, and fan films, and whatever. So let me know what you think.